By now, every Steelers fan has scanned that final list. The 53 names are out, the decisions have been made, and the dust is just starting to settle. And yeah, we've all spent a couple of minutes double-checking how to pronounce EZU, and I think I've finally got it too. It's the kind of roster reveal that comes with some head-scratchers, a few expected moves, and a few that still sting a little, no matter how much sense they make on paper. Let's dive straight into it. The final cuts are in, and the names that didn't survive that last wave are now officially out, at least for now. DeMarvin Leal, Dylan Cook, Aku Leota, Robert Woods, Beanie Bishop, Sebastian Castro, Keshawn Williams, Dominique Davis, Brandon Johnson, Chuck Clark, James Pierre, Max Sharping, and Trey Sermon. Some of those were expected, some not so much. And I've got to pause here for a second on one name in particular, James Pierre. Look, nobody was banking on Pierre being the savior of this secondary, but the guy brought real value on special teams. That's not opinion. That's something the team itself has acknowledged repeatedly. His ability to hold down an outside corner spot wasn't elite, but it was reliable. And sometimes, in a league that chews up depth like it's nothing, reliable matters. But apparently, the decision came down to Pierre versus 7th-round rookie Daquan Kent. And what makes that interesting is Kent didn't even participate in training camp or preseason. 0 game tape in a Steelers uniform. But they like the kid. A lot. Enough to take the chance. That speaks volumes about what they think his ceiling might be. Now, it's easy to say, trust the process, but this was a gamble. Not a reckless one, but still a gamble. Now, here's where things really start to shift. The focus isn't just on the players who were shown the door. The real intrigue now lies in who might be coming in next. Because make no mistake, the Steelers are not done. In fact, based on what I've been told, straight from someone close enough to know what's really happening behind the scenes, the Steelers are actively, aggressively looking at a few key positions. And wide receiver? That's still high on the list. Hasn't stopped being a priority. Let's look at who made the cut in the WR room. DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin, Roman Wilson, Scotty Miller, and Ben Skowronek. Those 5 names are the ones they're rolling with for now. And no surprises there. Maybe a few eyebrows raised around Skowronek, but here's the thing. He earned that spot back. He tweaked his ankle badly during joint practices with the Buccaneers, looked rough, but then he bounced right back. No hesitation, no lingering effects. That alone probably gave the coaches some confidence in his toughness and reliability. And as for Robert Woods, yeah, he's out. And look, this isn't about being disrespectful. He had a solid NFL career, no one's denying that. But you could see it wasn't clicking. The separation wasn't there. The burst wasn't there. It looked like he was running uphill at times. That decision made itself, to be honest. But here's the part that keeps spinning in my mind. There's still room to shake up that room. If you're looking at Miller and Skowronek as your WR4 and WR5, you're not locked in. Especially when Skowronek's real value is on special teams, which he excels at. And I mean excels. He's been praised for that every time his name comes up in that context. So if someone is going to be replaced, it's more likely to be Miller. That's the spot where you could slide in a legit number 2 receiver. And that should absolutely be the goal. Right now, if you check the numbers, Over the Cap has the Steelers sitting with over $19 million in cap space. That's not small change. That's go out and get a real contributor money. Even if Omar Khan wants to keep a few million in his back pocket the way Kevin Colbert always did, you're still looking at $14 million available. That is more than enough to add serious firepower. And it needs to be said again, Omar Khan, just by continuing this WR search, is openly acknowledging the need. He's not pretending everything's fine. He knows they're not set. That WR2 spot, whether they admit it out loud or not, is still wide open. A bunch of receivers just became available after cutdown day. Some got waived. Others might be quietly available now because teams are more willing to talk trades. That market is fluid and it's active. But there's another area, one that the Steelers internally see as an even bigger priority. And this one doesn't grab the headlines, but it absolutely matters. Offensive tackle depth. That's the number one priority inside the building right now. Not as flashy as a shiny new wideout, but arguably more important in terms of keeping everything together. And I have to admit, I was thrilled when I heard that. If you followed this show or channel for a while, you know how much I've harped on this point. You need real depth at tackle. It's non-negotiable. And for a while, I was close to giving up on that idea. Because, man, tackles are expensive. You saw the numbers flying around during free agency. 80-something million for Dan Moore. And it's easy to throw your hands up and say, well, that ship sailed. But here's the thing. You don't need to break the bank. You don't need a franchise left tackle right now. What you need is a swing guy. Someone who can play both sides, step in when needed, and this part is crucial. Hold his own in a starting role if it comes to that. Someone with a floor that doesn't make you sweat every time your starter limps off. Right now, the guy holding that swing tackle spot is Calvin Anderson. He's 29, which is prime age. Not too young, not too old. He's been around the league, played in 10 games last season with the Steelers. He knows the system, knows the expectations, and he's capable. But is he the best option available with $14 million burning a hole in your pocket? Probably not. And that's why the front office is still looking. There are guys out there. Some surprising names got cut. Others are quietly available. This position is deeper than I thought it would be post-cuts. So if they want to move, they can move. They have the flexibility. They have the cash. It's just a matter of execution at this point. And let me loop this back around to something that came up from a fan question recently. Someone asked, pretty directly, how Omar Khan could be forgiven if the wide receiver room doesn't get addressed properly and disaster strikes. Say, God forbid, DK Metcalf goes down. What then? It's a fair question. Because here's the brutal truth. As things stand today, the Steelers are better equipped to handle a QB1 injury than a WR1 injury. Think about that. They know what they have in Mason Rudolph as a backup quarterback. It's not elite, but it's stable. There's a floor. But if Metcalf goes down, there's nothing resembling a WR1B behind him. Not even close. And having two WR3 types and two WR4S does not magically combine into a WR2. That's not how this works. You need someone who can run similar routes, provide a similar physical presence, take some pressure off the top guy, and make defensive coordinators respect both sides of the field. Right now, that guy isn't on the roster. So, yeah, Omar's done a lot of good. He's been aggressive in some spots, patient in others. But if he doesn't land a true WR2 and something happens to DK, there's going to be some real criticism. Because fans aren't going to want to hear how hard you tried. Let's call it what it is. You've got a bona fide number one in DK Metcalf. No arguments there. He's a monster. He demands double teams, he creates mismatches, and he gives your quarterback a margin for error that only a handful of guys in the league can provide. But the moment you move past him on the depth chart, it gets murky. Roman Wilson has promise, but he's unproven. Calvin Austin is lightning in a bottle. But can he handle an expanded role if Metcalf misses time? Scotty Miller is serviceable, but there's a reason he's bounced around. And Skoranek, as we mentioned earlier, is almost more valuable without the ball in his hands than with it, simply because of his special teams work. That's not a WR2 room. That's a WR1 and a bunch of WR3-4S. And in today's NFL, where passing games stretch the field vertically and horizontally, where offensive coordinators are expected to scheme receivers open against tight coverage and exotic fronts, you can't afford to be thin at that position. You can't. And this is where it starts to feel like 2024 all over again. Because remember, last season, George Pickens goes down, and suddenly, this team looked lost on the outside. Nobody could run his routes. Nobody could win his 50-50 balls. Defenses didn't have to respect the deep threat, and the offense started shrinking inward. Arthur Smith tried to manufacture space with motion and rub routes, but it was never the same. That can't happen again. Not when you've been gifted another year of a top-tier defense and a manageable division. Now, I don't think Omar Khan is oblivious to that. Quite the opposite. Everything about his approach, from how they structure their receiver room, to the cap space they're holding, to the quiet whispers about them monitoring the trade market, suggests he's waiting. Waiting for the right guy to shake loose. Waiting for a team to get desperate. Waiting for the kind of wideout who's not just available, but undervalued. The risk is that someone else gets there first. This isn't fantasy football. You can't just click add to roster and plug guy in. You've got to negotiate, convince, sell your vision, and then fit that player into your offensive scheme without disrupting the chemistry that's already starting to form. It's a tightrope walk, and sometimes the best GMs are the ones who can move quietly and strike when no one else sees it coming. But it's not just about the receivers, is it? Because while everyone is fixated on finding a complement to Metcalf, the real heartbeat of this team, the engine that either revs up or stalls the entire offense, is the line. More specifically, the tackles. And if you're not at least a little nervous about the current depth there, you're not paying attention. Let's go back to basics. Offensive tackles in today's NFL aren't just about size and strength anymore. They need lateral movement, quick hands, and above all, consistency. Because defensive coordinators aren't dumb. They're going to line their best pass rushers up against your weakest linemen, and they're going to do it all game long until you do something about it. So when your starters need a breather, or worse, go down with an injury, that next man up needs to be more than a body. He needs to be a player. That's why this swing tackle role has become such a focal point internally. And while Calvin Anderson is a steady option, you can't shake the feeling that if he has to play meaningful snaps in December against playoff-caliber pass rushes, the outcome might not be pretty. The reality is the Steelers are in a rare position right now. They got cap space, they've got leverage, and they've got needs. That's a trifecta you don't get often in the NFL, especially not heading into Week 1. And if Omar Khan wants to prove that he's not just playing checkers while everyone else is playing chess, now's the time to make a calculated, aggressive move. Whether it's finding that WR2 who brings a little size, a little swagger, and a proven track record, or locking down a tackle who can step in without the offense collapsing, the opportunity is there. The window is open, but it won't stay that way forever. Other teams are going to start snapping up depth. Injury reports are going to roll in. Rosters are going to tighten. And suddenly, those options you thought would be there next week, gone. And speaking of what's gone, how about some of the guys who didn't make it this year? Not just from a performance standpoint, but from a story standpoint. You look at someone like Leal, who came in with a lot of hype. There were flashes. He showed potential as a versatile interior lineman, but for whatever reason, fit, consistency, or just a numbers game, he's out. Then you've got Beanie Bishop, a player a lot of fans were quietly rooting for. A guy who made plays in camp, showed grit, but ultimately didn't make the cut. Those are the kind of names that sometimes circle back later in the season, whether on practice squads or mid-season fill-ins. But for now, it's a harsh reminder of how brutal this business is. It's not always about how hard you work. Sometimes it's just about who fits, when, and where. And all of this, the cuts, the search for reinforcements, the constant recalibration, it's what separates the good teams from the great ones. It's easy to stick to your script, to roll with what you've got, and hope it's enough. But championship-caliber franchises? They don't hope. They act. They plan ahead. They identify weaknesses before they become fatal flaws. That's the challenge now for Khan and the front office. The roster isn't bad. In fact, it's probably better than it's been in years in terms of overall talent distribution. But there are cracks. This team is one or two strategic additions away from being a legitimate contender. But that means treating this next week or two like an extension of the offseason. Keep working the phones. Keep watching film. Keep the cap sheet flexible. Because if they do it right, they're not just plugging holes. They're building the kind of depth that gets you through January. That's how you win in this league. And if you're still on the fence about whether that WR2 need is overblown, ask yourself this. What happens if Metcalf misses 3 games? Not the whole season, just 3. What's the plan? Who steps up? Who draws coverage? Who wins outside and forces defenses to back off the box? Because right now, it doesn't feel like anyone on this roster has that answer. You don't want to be in that position in November when your season's on the line and you're throwing back shoulder fades to a guy who belongs in the slot. So the pressure's on. Not just from the media, not just from the fans, but from the football reality that this team is living in. Everyone in that locker room knows what they've got. They can feel it. The veterans, the rookies, the coaches, they know they're close. But close doesn't win playoff games. Close doesn't silence critics. And close doesn't get you another banner in the rafters. It's the job of this front office, now, to finish the puzzle. Don't let this roster become a what if. Don't leave the season's fate hanging on whether or not one guy stays healthy. Go get the help. It's out there, and there's no excuse not to make it happen. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Trevor Lawrence's move to the Pittsburgh Steelers has sent shockwaves through the NFL, sparking intense debate and speculation among fans, analysts, and rival teams alike. Sources close to the organization hint that the Steelers are not merely acquiring a quarterback for the short term, but are strategically positioning Lawrence as the face of the franchise for the next decade or more. The chatter around Heinz Field suggests that ownership and coaching staff have long envisioned a generational talent to rejuvenate a team historically known for grit and defense, and Lawrence's arrival fits that vision perfectly. Rumors are swirling that contract negotiations were fiercely competitive, with Lawrence and his representatives reportedly leveraging interest from multiple teams to secure a deal that not only provides substantial financial security, but also guarantees a leadership role. Within Pittsburgh, whispers have emerged about the locker room dynamic shifting immediately, with veteran players seemingly accepting, albeit cautiously, the notion that Lawrence is the chosen heir apparent. Analysts speculate that offensive schemes will soon revolve around his unique skill set, a combination of arm strength, mobility, and field vision, which could transform the Steelers' playbook entirely. Observers are already drawing comparisons to other young quarterbacks who inherited storied franchises, noting that Lawrence's trajectory mirrors the careers of elite players who quickly became synonymous with their teams, generating both excitement and anxiety. Inside the Steelers facility, insiders report a palpable energy that has rarely been witnessed in recent years. Training sessions, although still in their early stages, are allegedly marked by Lawrence's insistence on precision, adaptability, and leadership, fostering speculation that his influence will extend beyond game day into shaping team culture. Rumors suggest that coaches are adjusting practice regimens to accommodate his strengths while accelerating his learning curve in areas considered weaker, such as reading complex defensive schemes. Off the field, whispers hint that Lawrence has already formed tentative bonds with key offensive players, including receivers and linemen, and that informal meetings over playbook strategies are already underway, hinting at an early synchronization rarely seen in first-year quarterback situations. Sports pundits have noted that while Lawrence's debut in Pittsburgh will inevitably face scrutiny, insiders predict a transformative season if he can fully integrate with the team's systems and culture. Fans are speculating wildly on social media, with debates about immediate impact versus long-term development dominating conversations and fueling narratives of a franchise on the cusp of a new era. The Pittsburgh faithful appear cautiously optimistic, balancing reverence for the team's history with the tantalizing promise of an era defined by youthful brilliance. In parallel, rival teams are reportedly watching closely, devising defensive strategies that could either stall or amplify Lawrence's ascent, heightening the sense of anticipation surrounding his arrival. Financial and strategic aspects of Lawrence's acquisition are also a source of considerable gossip within NFL circles, with industry insiders suggesting that the Steelers have committed to a long-term plan that positions Lawrence as the central piece of a multi-year rebuild. Reports indicate that his contract includes clauses incentivizing performance, leadership, and durability, while simultaneously signaling to the league that Pittsburgh has decisively secured a franchise quarterback. Analysts argue that such a move underscores the team's intent to compete at the highest levels immediately, despite the potential risks inherent in entrusting a historically defensive-focused franchise to a quarterback-led offensive renaissance. Sports rumor mills are abuzz with conjecture regarding the cascading effects on roster management, salary cap considerations, and draft strategy, implying that Lawrence's presence could redefine how the Steelers approach player acquisition and development for years to come. The mere mention of Lawrence's name in Pittsburgh has already sparked widespread debate, with former players, analysts, and journalists weighing in on what many are calling the most significant quarterback acquisition of the decade. The ripple effect of Lawrence joining the Steelers extends into fan communities, sports media, and even betting markets, with speculation intensifying about how this move could alter the franchise's identity. Sources close to fan clubs suggest that merchandise sales, season ticket renewals, and social media engagement are experiencing unprecedented surges, fueled by rumors of Lawrence's leadership potential and charisma, both on and off the field. Conspiracy theories and insider whispers abound regarding the team's internal decision-making, with some claiming that a behind-the-scenes coup of sorts led to Lawrence being fast-tracked into the starting role, while others argue that the move reflects meticulous long-term planning by ownership and coaching personnel. Analysts are generating detailed projections, breaking down every conceivable scenario from offensive output to playoff probabilities, feeding the narrative that Lawrence is not merely a player, but a transformative symbol of Pittsburgh's resurgence. Observers speculate about how the team will balance the pressure of expectations with the need for patient development, noting that while Lawrence's skill set is exceptional, his integration into a historically defensive franchise will require both strategic vision and adaptability. Analysts speculate that the quarterback's youthful energy, combined with his evident talent, could attract new demographics of fans, generate high-profile sponsorship opportunities, and increase national visibility, reinforcing the idea that Lawrence is a cornerstone for both sporting and commercial ambitions. Sports media insiders report ongoing debates about how his arrival might influence coaching hierarchies, mentorship roles, and the grooming of emerging talent, suggesting that Lawrence's presence may subtly reshape the Steelers' organizational dynamics. Among fans and pundits alike, the rumor mill has escalated to a near frenzy, with discussions encompassing everything from leadership style to potential statistical milestones, reflecting the pervasive excitement and curiosity surrounding this pivotal acquisition. In the context of the NFL, where quarterback movements dominate headlines and define legacies, the narrative emerging from Pittsburgh is unmistakable. Trevor Lawrence is being positioned not as a temporary solution, but as a long-term heir to a storied franchise, a figure whose performance, influence, and charisma could define the Steelers' trajectory for years to come. The burrow of speculation, excitement, and cautious optimism appears poised to grow even louder as training camps progress, preseason games unfold, and Lawrence begins his official tenure under the watchful gaze of a football world eager to witness the dawn of a new era in Pittsburgh. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.